Buenos días. Welcome to Tiempo. My name is Miguel Perez.
And I'm Anna Carbonell. And unfortunately, Camilo Sesto will not be able to join us on today's show, but we should have him in a future date. With us today is Alice Cardona, the recipient of the latest Susan B. Anthony Award.
And also Herman Badillo, former congressman and former deputy mayor Herman Badillo, who will be here to talk about the Hispanic politics in New York City. And we hope you stay tuned, spend more tiempo with us.
Is he going to be the next mayor?
I don't know. We'll ask him. We'll be
Insista en un pollo amarillo dorado Perdue. No se conforme con una imitación barata.
The next time you buy coffee, look for the symbol or the words that tell you it's 100% Colombian. Because if you don't pick your coffee as carefully as we do, you won't be drinking the richest coffee in the world.
150,000 people crossed its path on opening day. From its very beginning in 1883, New Yorkers have had a love affair with the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, to mark the 100th birthday of this $25 million masterpiece, Channel 7 joins the tri-state in celebration of this living legend. Tuesday, join the fun and fireworks, the parades, and interesting people in a day-long celebration of the Brooklyn Bridge. 100 years. Live Tuesday on Channel 7.
At first, it seemed to strike only male homosexuals, but now the high-risk threat is expanding, moving closer. 1,300 cases, half in New York City. Victims of acquired immune deficiency syndrome, a mysterious killer that has medical experts scrambling to find its cause, its cure, and its next victim. Target 7 investigates AIDS. Is anyone immune? On Eyewitness News, beginning Monday at 6, only on Channel 7.
Adults who suffer from life-threatening heart and lung diseases and children with congenital heart disease are offered hope through treatment and research at Deborah Heart and Lung Center, Browns Mills, New Jersey. And no patient has ever received a bill. Please contribute and call to join your local Deborah chapter.
Recently, the National Organization for Women, NOW, presented its highest award to an Hispanic woman who has helped her community realize its fullest potential. Alice Cardona is the recipient of this year's Susan B. Anthony Award. Hi, Alice. How are you?
Good.
And first of all, how does it feel having gotten the award as an Hispanic woman?
Well, it felt very good. I thought that the occasion was not just for me, but for many other people who had contributed also, because one does not do things alone. One does it with people and for people.
So this is not the only award that was given out by?
No, there were lots of other women who did receive awards. It just so happens that this year I was the Hispanic to receive it. Mm-hmm. But I received it because my name was submitted by Hispanic groups.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You're also involved in the National Conference for Puerto Rican Women. Mm-hmm. How does that work?
Well, the National Conference of Puerto Rican Women, it so happens that this year is celebrating its 10th anniversary. And it was established in 1973. It was an outcome of many other groups who were organizing at the time. And this group is dedicated with particular emphasis to Puerto Rican women and helping them to advance themselves in an awareness of the political needs that there are out there in our community, as well as social service needs that are there.
Okay, so those are its goals.
Those are its goals, right.
Now, you've been instrumental in organizing ACER. Mm-hmm. Okay, first of all, what is it?
ACER really stands for the Hispanic American Career Educational Resources Incorporated.
That's a mouthful.
It is, it is. But it's nice to know that ACER in Spanish means to do. Mm-hmm. And if you take the words to do, T-O-D-O, it means todo. Right. So if you did a little translation, it's ACER todo. The Hispanic Women's Center, which is an organ of the ACER Incorporated, is established to service women. But we have a group of 14 or 15 of us back in 1975 who got together.
Is that when it started?
Yes, that's when it started. And we started to look around and say we had a need which was not being fulfilled by any of the agencies that were established at the time, and we felt we needed to create an organization which addressed itself to the specific needs of the women, not leaving behind the man. but rather trying to help the man advance as well as the woman advance.
Well, along with it, right?
Yes, juntos. Together.
And you have a training program for micro or
a microcomputer word processing training program. Yes, that is in ASED, the Hispanic Women's Center, and what we have is about 6 Apple II machines in which we train men and women in how to use the microcomputer, the word processing. We test them. We help them with the English as a second language. We also have a...
Through the computers?
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrific.
Yeah. Because, see, the first thing you have to understand is that this is for Spanish speakers. I should say that this is a test with people who first are tested in Spanish to see what their capabilities are. Then they're tested in English because you must be able to read and write English. Okay, and then if you pass those 2 tests, then you're given the microcomputer. Excuse me, I have to say one thing. You need to have typing skills. There is a test for typing. And once you pass those tests to the satisfaction of the center, then you are put into work and taught to microcomputer word processor. Once you have done that, then they also help you in job development, meaning to help you to get a job in the field and in the area.
Now, is that part of the networking program?
No, that's one component. The Hispanic Women's Network, then, is for women mainly, which is that women get together once a month and discuss issues and topics which they're very concerned about. We can do women in stress, women in business, women as mothers, or women as women who are out there working in the field. And it's a beautiful networking that
this is only for women?
Yeah. And then we have the Hispanic Women's Newsletter, which we distribute throughout the nation, which we inform people of what's happening in all areas, just any information that we feel is important that women should know about.
If for those who would like to receive the newsletter, how would they get in touch with you?
Okay, they would write to the Hispanic Women's Center, 115 West 30th Street, New York, New York, 1001. And just say, please put me on your mailing list.
Okay.
And that's how you get put on the mailing list.
All right. And I know that you support the bilingual program.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
But there's been some critics of the programs that say that this has actually limited the English-speaking abilities.
You know, that's not so. When you look at what was happening before 1974, before the Aspira versus the Board of Ed, and you take a look at what the dropout rate or what the college retention was of our community, you can very well see that students were not making it through the system when you had established what was there before. Now, this has been established since the beginning, that from people who came, whether you talk about people who came from Russia or Italy or whatever, this did not work for our community. This English only. Now what we have here is just 10 years of something happening and they're already saying it doesn't work, when you've had 20 or 30 years of something that didn't work at all. So I think that you have to take a look at bilingual education, and one of the problems is people say it doesn't work and they don't know what they're talking about because they haven't seen examples of it. And I think one of the faults is the educators themselves. They're so busy doing it that they haven't had a chance to tell people, look, it really works. Let me show you some examples. We hope to correct that very soon. We're going to have a conference on just that alone.
Well, I'm glad that you have that, that belief. Also, you've been involved in community work yourself. You know, what drove you to do that?
Well, you see, when you start talking about...
You seem to be so involved in everything, you know.
Well, you go back to where were you when certain things were happening, quote unquote, in the general community out there, and then you have to take a look at what were the needs where you were at. For instance, if you talk about in the 60s, when many people were marching in the civil rights movement, you have to talk about where I always felt it was in the community. When we were struggling in the 60s to get people, more parents in particular, more knowledgeable about their children's education so that they can then become part of that system. And to struggle with that, you had to deal with the poverty programs that were in place that were trying to do that, but the system wasn't letting it happen. And there was a bigger struggle about saying, yes, we had this great society, but yet you needed people to be out there in the struggles, in the forefront of the battle. But then you also needed other people who were busy explaining it to the community, said, look, if you want your kid to make it in this system, then you have to understand, yes, he needs to know English. Yes, you better understand the education system. If he's in the 9th grade and you want him to go to college, then this is what you need to know. If she wants to become a psychologist, this is what she needs to be doing in high school. It's not easy.
Well, I'm glad that you were here to give us these words, Alice, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope to see you again, and maybe next year you'll be another recipient again.
Thank you.
Miguel?
Gracias, Ana. Next, the state of Hispanic politics.
pechugas de pollo tienen más carne en sus huesos. Usted obtiene un bocado más en cada pechuga.
You know who this twerp is? It's Pat Boone. I was born in Florida, and I think it's a great place to live. Here's one of the reasons. Lehigh, a resort community of 17,000 happy people. Florida's thriving Gulf Coast, just 12 miles from Fort Myers. Call this toll-free number to find out how you can stay for 3 days and 2 nights at Lehigh's expense. The folks at Lehigh will brag a little and show you some great Florida homes and condominiums with prices and financing you can live with. And while you're at Lehigh, you can try the golf courses or the tennis courts. Even try to beat this record catch. So call now. It's toll-free. Find out how you can enjoy an inspection visit at Lehigh's expense and a lifetime of easy Florida living. Tell them, folks. The Lehigh, Florida.
This is the connection you've been waiting for. Turn on WPLJ for the best rock, the best jocks, the best music mix, with more of your favorites. WPLJ has it all. More of what you want from your radio station. WPLJ, the home of rock and roll.
You know, driving out of school is a downer. That's right, Bob. And if that's where you're headed, why not let the New York City Public Schools help? That's right. They got all kinds of deals. Some people can work part-time, and some people even get free daycare services. And qualified students can even get free lunches and car fare. Yeah, so they can help you. Call their official hotline number. Okay?
After the last song is sung, the USO is still there. Support your USO, because life's toughest battles aren't always fought in the field.
With us today is perhaps the best known, the most widely known Hispanic politician in New York City and perhaps in the country. We are delighted that he is on our show today. Herman Badillo, welcome to Tiempo.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Let me start off with a question that was suggested by Anna in our introduction of the show a little while ago, and that is, will you be our candidate for mayor?
At some future time, I expect to be, but I'm not sure when.
You can't tell us whether you are, how strongly are you considering the race for mayor in 1985?
Well, we are working in a coalition of the labor unions, the progressive community, the reformers, the blacks and the Hispanics, to replace Mayor Koch, which I'm sure we will do. But it's more important to make sure that we get a good replacement for Mayor Koch than that any particular individual be chosen. So right now it's too early to pick candidates. What is going on now is a registration drive for 1984 to replace President Reagan, but of course it will be helpful in replacing Ed Koch too.
Since you brought up the mayor, let me ask you this. He has been going around lately claiming that his relationship with the Hispanic community are okay, to say the least, and that there isn't that much problem there. I guess he's trying to minimize the problems.
He lost every Hispanic district to Mario Cuomo last year by large margins. He lost those districts more heavily than any other. And I think that's the evidence. The fact is that if there's a decent candidate, and there will be, Koch will lose, not just the Hispanic districts, but he will lose the city.
There is a lot of talk lately about minority power in politics. Mm-hmm. How real is it? You've been in Chicago.
It's very real, yes. I campaigned in Chicago for Harold Washington, and there was a huge turnout of people to come out to vote for him. He was elected. And I campaigned in Philadelphia for Wilson Goode. And again, I saw the same intense desire to recognize that the way to move ahead now for people who feel they've been left out, and this includes not just blacks and Hispanics, but it includes women, it includes young people, it includes increasingly labor unions. People have come to realize that instead of the turmoil of the 60s, that what the 80s called for is political power and voting and registering and voting, because the truth is that we talk about equality in this country, which we haven't achieved. But the one place where equality has been achieved is in voting, because there you have one person, one vote. Doesn't matter what color you are or how wealthy or poor you may be, your vote counts as much as any other. And those in the black, Hispanic, and other communities who've been left out have come to realize that they can make a difference. They have made a difference in Chicago and Philadelphia. They will make a difference in 1984 for the presidency, and they will make a difference in 1985 for the mayoralty of New York City.
You think that the minorities are finally realizing the importance of the vote?
Yes, I see it. When I go campaigning, when I go talking to people about registering, I see that people recognize that they are important, that they can fight the City Hall and replace the person who's at City Hall, that they can elect a person like Mario Cuomo governor, for example. The black and Hispanic communities made a difference there. I campaign for Cuomo when nobody thought he would be elected. I campaigned for Frank Lautenberg in New Jersey for senator when nobody thought he could be elected. There too, our Hispanic community made a difference.
Why do you think it's so important to replace the mayor?
Because he has been a negative force in New York City. We all started out helping Ed Koch. In fact, I was his deputy mayor for a while. We thought that we'd be able to put the city together because we need to do it. We have any number of problems, but he turned out to be a fellow who specializes in confrontation. He attacks the blacks, the Hispanics, he attacks the WASP upstate even, and looks for difficulties with people when it's unnecessary. We have enormous problems, and we cannot afford the kind of confrontations that he brings about.
Well, there was a major confrontation recently because of the school chancellor's raid and his support of Mr. Wagner.
Right.
You, in that confrontation, took the side of Minter. You supported Minter.
That's right. We supported Minter because we wanted to be sure that there would be no split between the black and Hispanic communities. And we supported Minter because he was the deputy chancellor who was at the level of being chancellor, so there would be no question about his credentials. You know, the irony now is that in the 60s and 70s, they said that they had to worry about credentials of blacks and Hispanics. Now we find the Hispanics have all the credentials and the others don't have the credentials. So therefore we picked the one who had the absolutely unquestioned credentials. But we were never against Tony Alvarado.
There were some Hispanic leaders who criticized you for not supporting Alvarado.
Yeah, but you see, you have to make a choice. If we had split between blacks for Minter and Hispanics for Alvarado, it would have led to the kind of split we want to avoid. We want to work in coalitions. If it happens that a Hispanic comes out to be number one, as happened with Mr. Alvarado, Alvan and the blacks were very gracious. They immediately accepted it. If it happens that a black comes out to be number one, I expect to be equally gracious and accept that.
Can this happen again for the mayor's race? Could there be such a compromise in such a coalition that will run one candidate against the mayor instead of a black and a Hispanic?
There's no chance, and I will not run if it means that we're going to have the problem we had in 1977, where you had Percy Sutton running for mayor, and me running for mayor, and Bella Abzug running for mayor, so that the three groups which would have made a majority
split the vote.
That's not going to happen again, and that's why there's no doubt in my mind that Ed Koch will be defeated.
So you are willing to take a step back if necessary, and let someone else run if that's what it means.
Right. The idea is to work in the best interest of the city. Whenever you form a coalition that's meaningful, you have to be prepared to compromise, and we are willing to do this, and this includes me.
You supported Cuomo when he ran for governor.
Right.
If you ran for mayor, do you think Cuomo would support you, or do you think he would go for the mayor?
No, I didn't ask him that. I don't expect that. I mean, the incumbents generally tend to be very reluctant to support people who are out of office. So I think Mr. Cuomo has enough problems. I think you should worry about who should be supported for mayor. We will take care of that as we build our coalitions.
What about Harold Washington? Do you expect him to come to New York and help you out like you did with him?
There are no deals. I mean, I was willing to help him out because I thought it was important that he be elected. But I never asked him to support me if I ran for mayor here, nor Wilson Good, nor Frank Lautenberg for that matter. We work to elect the best people in that particular election, and then we continue working towards other elections in the future.
What did you learn from the Chicago election? You were there how long?
I was there twice. I was there in the first primary, and then I was there in the second election. I learned that the Hispanic community was very much behind the other groups in getting organized. Of course, there we had a bigger problem because it's the Mexican community is very large and it was separated from the Puerto Rican community. Here in New York City, we are farther ahead in getting our community registered and voting, but we still have a long way to go. So I hope that people will understand now that it's very easy to register in New York City. When I started in politics, we had a literacy test. We had all kinds of obstacles to registration. I wrote the Voting Rights Act of 1975 in Congress, which enabled people to vote in Spanish if they can't speak English. So now you can register and vote if you are a citizen, whether you speak English or Spanish. You can register at night, or Saturdays or Sundays. You can register by mail. If you ask me, could I make it easier for people to register, I say, no, I did that already. Now the thing is for people to recognize that the obstacles of the past have been removed, that they can, and that they should register and vote because it makes a difference.
Nevertheless, only about 1/3 of the eligible Hispanics are registered to vote in New York City, from what I understand.
Well, more than that. See, one of our problems is we have a very young population. The median age of the Puerto Rican is 19. I tried to lower the voting age to 12. If I had, I would have been elected easily. But a very substantial portion of our population, about 45%, is under 18, so they can't register and vote. And another big portion is just a little above 18. We have very few people who are senior citizens in our community. Senior citizens vote more than any other group, so we don't have enough of them. So that one of the reasons we have a larger percentage of people who are not registered to vote is because we have such a huge number who are in the 18 to 25 group.
Let me get back to the mayor's race again, and the next mayor's race. And a lot of people, because you went to Chicago and campaigned for Harold Washington, because you went to Philadelphia, because you supported Minter, are seeing all these things as signs.
I also supported Mario Cuomo. I also supported Frank Lautenberg.
Right, but they are seeing your moves toward the black community as a means of forming a coalition for yourself.
I said that not just for me. I said we are forming a coalition in order to elect a decent mayor in New York City. And I recognize, and the blacks recognize, and the labor unions, that this cannot be done by any single group. We have to have a coalition of many groups, but this was done in the election.
To a lot of people, my point is that to a lot of people it looks like you're running.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not. All I'm saying is that it is not as important that I be the candidate as it is that we have a coalition which will defeat Mayor Koch, and that will happen.
Okay, well, I'm again very glad to have you on our show. And once you declare your candidacy, please promise to come back, and then we'll talk formally about your attempts to defeat the mayor.
Glad to, but tenemos tiempo.
Okay,
for that.
Mucho tiempo.
Okay? Right.
Pleasure. Yeah. Ana.
Gracias, Miguel, and gracias, Mr. Badillo, for Tiempo. Next, cards and letters.
Insist on a golden yellow Purdue chicken. Don't settle for a cheap imitation.
For centuries, children died of smallpox, polio, and typhoid. Today, medical research can control these diseases. But there's one major killer of children that science alone can't cure. It's called child abuse. Last year, 2,000 American children died of abuse and neglect. That's 6 every day. This time, there is no miracle drug.
Call the New York State Child Protective Hotline, 800-342-3720.
What will you say if I told you I was mentally retarded? Will you believe me? Will you turn away? There are 6 million mental retarded Americans who need to be helped, who can't be helped. Who's helping? The ARC, the Association for Retarded Citizens. They helped me. Yes, I am mentally retarded. Build the ARC. When you give help, you give hope.
I was allergic to potato, carrot, turnip.
Starting Monday at 5, Storm Field reports on allergies. nothing to sneeze at.
Then, at 6,
AIDS.
in 1980, a killer came out of the closet.
Acquired immune deficiency syndrome.
And possibly into your neighborhood.
Now labeled by the federal government as an epidemic.
John Johnson with a Target 7 report.
Watch Eyewitness News, plus allergies, nothing to sneeze at.
And AIDS, Monday.
Drinking drivers in New York State. The party's over.
If you or someone you know is deaf and needs professional counseling for personal problems, contact the Lexington Center for Mental Health Services. The Lexington Center staff is trained to work with hearing impaired people with emotional problems and is certified by New York State.
For those of you who missed the initial information about where to get your newsletter from ACED, the address to write to is ACED, Hispanic Women's Center, 115 West 30th Street, room 900, New York, 10001. And that was a great interview you had with Herman Badillo, by the way, and I think that we really got a lot of information. But is he going to be our next mayor?
I don't know. I think so. I think he's running. I think the man is running. He's not quite saying it yet, but I think he's running. We also want to tell our viewers before we go here, we have just a little bit more time, that we've been receiving beautiful letters, and we hope you keep writing us and telling us about the program and what you think about the program.
What you think?
And so come back next week and spend more tiempo with us.
Yes, and on behalf of the entire staff, please join us again next week.
The Latino playwrights of the Henry Street Settlement will be opening their 1983 Spring Festival this Monday and Wednesday evening at 7:30 with performances of Green Card Blues, a farce by Orlando Dole. The presentation will take place at the Louis Abrams Arts for Living Center, 466 Grand Street in Manhattan.